not going to talk about the selection process or about the fight we had within the jury or about the projects, because you are going to learn much more about the projects later today. I'm going to talk about why investigative journalism in Europe matters. My speech could be a 10-second speech. It matters because we, as investigative journalists, we write stories that matter. But I'm going to make it a little bit longer because I want to mention the situation that we are actually facing as investigative journalists, not only in our part of Europe, what I mean as a Central Europe, but actually it's going spreading all over Europe. Only yesterday, me and my colleague Eva, sitting there, we came from Slovakia, where we've been conducting interviews with family of killed, murdered investigative journalist Jano Kuciak and with family of his fiancée, who was also killed about a year ago, Martina Kušnírová. And actually, I have to tell you that those families, those are my heroes, because they don't blame investigative journalism for their kids being killed. They blame the system, they blame the government, and they understand that actually Jan Kuciak only wanted to make Slovakia better, to make the world better, and that's how he got killed. Those actually, the killings, they spark mass protests in Slovakia. Tens of thousands of people went to the streets demanding that the government would resign. And indeed, within a couple of months, the government resigned. Then the police president was forced to resign, and the deputy director of anti-corruption unit was forced to resign. And only today we've learned that actually the resigned police president, who later came to work at the Czech and in Slovak Ministry of Foreign Affairs, was actually fired from both ministries. And now he's probably, these days, starting tomorrow, he's unemployed. It is great success of investigative journalism, and also all the revelations that are coming up about the investigation about the murder are shocking, but they are truly important, because now we can actually see that Slovakia, it's not kind of Eastern Germany. Slovakia, it's much more Montenegro. And we see that actually the line between organized crime, between business interests and between politicians, it's very blurred. We are actually talking all the time about the same group of the people. How did we got there to the state when actually journalists are being killed within EU? It's the situation here, and I can tell you that actually talking about the winter to us journalists already came. Every day, the targets on our backs are growing and growing, and we are actually much more targeted by harassment of politicians, and for public, this is kind of okay. Let me give you a couple of examples. I will start with the Czech president Miloš Zeman, who is actually joking quite often about killing of the journalists. He made a couple of jokes with Vladimir Putin in Russia that actually journalists should be eliminated. A couple of months later, he posed with a toy gun with inscription to the journalists. Those are not like private jokes. This is public representation of Czech Republic. And actually, one of his last jokes was when he publicly said that he loves journalists so much that he will make a party for them at the Saudi Arabian embassy. This is just, the Czech president. I can talk about Slovakia, where the situation is similar. The former prime minister, who was forced to resign, he called journalists prostitutes, and he often blamed them for all his, failures. Still, he's quite bitter towards journalists and journalism because he was forced also by journalists to resign. Probably you all are aware about the situation in Hungary, but actually vast majority of the media were donated to a fund that is controlled by the Prime Minister Orbán. And we can actually add Poland as well, when all the media that do not copy or do not understand the pro-government line are being liquidated financially. They won't get any advertisement. That's the situation here. What is good, and for me probably the strongest message after the murder of our friend and colleague Jana Kuciak, is actually that the people are really truly standing behind us. Because the protests in the street and actually the public demand about the investigation and independent investigation into the murder, that actually only recently is really going towards a good direction to expose what was done wrong. And we probably quite shortly will learn how the murder actually happened and who've done it. It was made only because there was a huge public support of us, investigative journalists, and not only investigative journalists, but support of a journalist in general. So we are probably facing this kind of a crisis of a journalism that everyone is talking about, but let's make it opportunity and let's turn it into the point when actually we will rethink how to approach more people, how to explain to more people the value of the information we are bringing, and actually the value of the information that could cost some of our colleagues the life. Thank you. No, actually, one more comment. You know, sometimes we are seen by public as kind of a heroes fighting at the front line. Investigative journalism is seen as one of the most useful tools to fight corruption that actually does exist. And you know, just to mention, even we as heroes and frontline fighters for transparency, we need to pay the rent. And finally, we've got a fund that can help us, actually supported by European Commission and supported by European Parliament. We have a fund that can actually help us to pay the rent and at the same time do complicated but important stories that matter. Thank you.